Hi friends, welcome to my channel Liang Ceramic Studio. I'm a ceramic artist based in the US. On this channel, I love to share my work process and studio life with you. The weather in the northeast US has been unusually cold over the past 2 weeks. Temperature has hovered between 21 Fahrenheit and 9 below 0 Fahrenheit, with the wind chill dropping as low as -22 Fahrenheit. How do you make pottery in a studio with almost no insulation in temperature like this? How do I keep myself from freezing? And how do I prevent my greenware from freezing and cracking? This video shares my experience making pottery during this cold snap, along with some tips. I hope you enjoy this video and stay warm out there. During the final days of January, the entire northeast has been blanketed in snow. The first thing we do in the morning is clear a path. My handyman used his old plow truck to clear the driveway, while my dad was busy fixing up the snowman he made for the grandkids. He also cleared a path leading to the sliding hill in the yard. The freezing morning actually felt a little bit warmer thanks to all the busy labor. I went to the studio ready to throw on the wheel, but I was met with something unexpected. The clay was frozen solid. Alright then, I moved the clay over to my small gas heater to warm it up. In the meantime, let's pack up cups that sold recently. I use honeycomb paper to wrap the cups. You have to make sure to stretch the paper open to get the best protective effect. I wrap them carefully, tie them with string. And stuff the box with packing paper to ensure they are safe. Okay, the clay has thawed out pretty well. I've already tested the forms and the amount of clay needed for this batch, and I recorded it all in my notebook. First, I use a small scale to weigh out the clay I need. Then I wedge the clay, just like kneading dough. Note that it is best to wedge clay in one direction. After that, I pat the clay into a cone shape, which makes rolling easier. I usually prepare 10 balls of clay at one time because I have 10 throwing beds. I make 10 pieces, then take a break. Once the greenware dries and firms up a bit, I repeat the process for the next batch. First, rule number 1, always use hot water when throwing in winter. That makes a huge difference. Wipe the throwing bed with a sponge and slime the clay down hard onto the center. Then, use the strength of both arms to center the clay. For this step, make sure your arms are stable. You can tuck your elbows into your body for support. Once you feel the clay is centered and not wobbling, press it down to form a low cylinder. Now you can open the hole, press down with your fingers, and pull outward simultaneously. Repeat this a few times until the bottom reaches your desired width. Pay attention to the thickness of the bottom. If you plan to trim a foot ring, leave about 1 cm. If it's a flat bottom, you can go a bit thinner. After opening, compress the bottom a few times by pressing down. This helps prevent cracks. Now use both hands to pull the walls. Apply pressure from both the inside and outside, moving upward. Repeat this several times until the walls reach your desired height. Start by pulling vertically and then shape the pot out at the end. A cup is almost done. Here is a tip. I cut a piece of my rubber glove to use on the rim. It makes the rim incredibly smooth. Also, don't forget to sponge out any water sitting at the bottom to prevent cracking. Finally, use a wooden tool to clear up the edge. Wipe the throwing bed clean, and the cup is finished. Okay, let's run through it one more time. Center, press down, open the hole, widen, compress, pull up, repeat, repeat. Sponge out the water, clean the edge, and down. Watching up to this point, did you guys notice a problem? That is, I forgot to cut off the bottoms. Luckily, I remembered just in time. Meanwhile, my handyman is helping me install a diesel heater because the old machine broke down. For tonight, I can only use the small gas heater to keep my greenware from freezing. The next morning, I arrived at the studio to find that while my greenware didn't freeze, they were bone dry. They still won't work. So I decided to put them into the damp box. I added some water to the plaster slab at the bottom, hoping to save these cups. Then I started another day of throwing. This time I filmed from different camera angles, hoping to give you guys a clearer view so the process is easier to understand. Although the heater was running constantly, since the studio has basically no insulation, it could only maintain the temperature around the freezing point in this extreme cold. So I placed the thrown pots closest to the heater to keep them from freezing. Before leaving for the night, I moved all the cups into the damp box. I lined the inside of the lid with a layer of cotton cloth to catch any condensation and prevent it from dripping onto the greenware and ruining them. I positioned the vent was pointing right at the damp box to ensure it stayed above freezing. The first thing I did when I arrived at the studio the next day was to check on the cups in the damp box. They were all fine. The cotton cloth really did protect them from being dripped on. Aside from my cups, everything else in the studio that contains water had turned to ice. But that's no problem. I just changed ice water into hot water, and I was ready to thrill again. And don't forget to take a bag of clay home with you before you leave at night, or place the clay right next to the heater. That way, we don't have to waste time waiting for the clay to thaw the next day. Today, before I left the studio, the greenware was still very white, and I couldn't even remove them from the beds. So I decided to place the white pots above the heater vent. Then I gently covered them with a piece of cotton cloth. It helps to slow down the drying speed from the direct heat, while still allowing them to firm up enough for the next day. The next day, aside from the cups on the outer edge where some parts had gone bone dry, the rest maintained a perfect leather hard state. I carefully placed them bottom up. Cleaned off the throwing beds and got ready for today's rowing session. Today's rowing session is a little different from the last few days. Today, I'm going to use tools to alter the cups I've just thrown. Everything is decided in a moment, based purely on how I feel. Although repeating the same shape guaranteeing a higher success rate, playing around freely like this helps keep the pottery process fresh for me and sparks new inspiration for different designs. Today, I used my silicone and metal ribs to create various effects. What tool or techniques do you guys usually use to alter your forms? Please let me know in the comments below. Today the studio temperature is still below freezing. What do I wear to ensure I don't turn into an icicle while working? On top, I'm wearing thermal underwear and a thick wool sweater. For pants, I choose thick fleece-lined soft pants. Underneath, I have thermal underwear layered with wool leggings. I'm also wearing wool socks and a pair of thick snow boots. Throw on an apron, and that's my full gear for surviving in the studio. When the greenware reaches the leather hard stage, the rims usually dry out first. To make sure they dry evenly, it's best to flip them bottom up. This gets them ready for the next step, trimming. The first step of trimming is to place the greenware in the center of the wheel. You can use the concentrate rings on the wheel head to gauge the general position. Then slowly adjust it until it's centered. Secure the pot with wad of the soft clay. My current favorite trimming routine is to first use a mini metal lobe tool to roughly trim the bottom. Then I use a sharp flat-headed tungsten tool to trim the edge of the foot. I use a mini trimming tool to define the location of the foot ring. Next, I use a curved, serrated tungsten tool to shape the wall profile and the flat area of the foot. Then use a flat tool to smooth out the wall. Finally, I use this trimming tool that often appears in beginner pottery kits to do a final cleanup of the bottom and wall. This tool isn't very sharp, but that makes it perfect for this final refining step. Last step, use your finger to gently press and smooth the foot ring to round it off. And the cup is trimmed. My wheel splash pan is full, and I wanted to reclaim these crabs. But my porcelain reclaim bucket is completely frozen. Alright then, I will just have to store the clay in a temporary bucket for now. Okay, let's keep trimming. After trimming all the cups, I started working on the surface treatment. I used a serrated tool to create dozens of different patterns. This process is incredibly fun and enjoyable for me. Even a simple, small change can create a completely new pattern, and this constant variation sparks even more creative ideas. Making natural, intuitive changes with a basic form. I guess that's the true joy of making handmade pottery. After finishing the surface decoration, I can finally attach the handles. I feel like handle attachment is a step that often gets overlooked. I've seen so many beautiful cups that are laid down by a handle with no spirit or character. Even for the most ordinary cup shape, a beautiful handle can instantly bring it to life. I make my handles entirely by hand. They can't be perfectly identical, which is exactly why I love them. To be efficient, I grab a large lump of clay and first pull out some thick strips to set aside. Then I continue to lubricate with water and pull them to my desired width and thickness. Use the web of your hand to press and pull the clay down. Add water to keep it smooth so you don't feel any drag. Then use your thumb to press into the strip and pull down to shape it. Place it on a plasterboard for now. Once the strip dry enough that they aren't sticky and won't easily deform, they are ready to be attached to the cups. Choose a handle that you think fits. Cut off the excess clay at both ends. And score the surface where it will attach. Add some slip. Press the contact points firmly and then do a little fine-tuning to shape it. That's the basic method for attaching handles. But don't forget the two most important points. Observe and experiment. Keep repeating these two things, slowly but surely. You will find that you've gained a deeper understanding and mastery of cup handles. After attaching all the handles, wait for the slip at the connection points to dry slightly. This is the right time to refine the details around the joints. When it dries a bit more, use a white sponge or a brush to gently wipe the connection to create a better finish. You can repeat this time one more time to make it perfect. Last night is the coldest time of all, with a low of -9 Fahrenheit and a wind chill of -22 Fahrenheit. I woke up a bit early. As usual, if I manage to get up early, I spend some time reading alone. I really enjoy this solitary reading time. After a while, my son woke up and joined me to read. He's usually a very energetic kid, so I'm incredibly grateful for this moment of quiet. Making myself a cup of coffee is another morning ritual that brings me great satisfaction, especially when using a new cup fresh from the last kiln firing. I named this cup Yukong. Do you think it's a good name? When I arrived at the studio, I was met with one piece of good news and one piece of bad news. The good news is that the cups I trimmed are basically dry and ready. The bad news is that the 10 small cups I threw yesterday all froze and cracked. Even though I placed them next to the heater and covered them with cotton cloths, just like usual, it was simply too cold last night. Well, I took a moment to reset my mood and then loaded the dry cups into the kiln for their Bisque firing. It's time to unload the kiln. I suspect many ceramic artists feel the same way I do, that Bisqueware is at its most beautiful state, carrying a sense of pure sanctity. The first thing to do after unloading is to rinse the cups. The goal is to clean off any dust on the surface to prepare for the glazing process. After rinsing, I prep the glaze. It must be stirred thoroughly and ideally sieved. I use wax to coat the bottom where I don't want glaze. You can wipe the bottom clean after glazing, but I prefer waxing. It makes cleaning the bottom so much easier. I glaze the interior first, fill it and pour it out quickly. Then I dip the rim. After the inside is done, I use a different glaze for the outside, also using the dipping technique. Once they are all glazed, they go back into the kiln for the final glaze fairing. I usually clean my tools and work table while the final glaze fairing is underway, washing and salting the tools, wiping the table dry. It's not just about preparing for the next step of work. It's also a way to tidy up and soothe my mind. When I got home, my son and my parents were making dumplings together. My mom taught me the skills of working with my hands, and now my son is also enjoying the simple joy of making things by hands. And of course, we were rewarded with the delicious taste of home. When I returned to the studio, the temperature has finally risen. The ice inside the studio has melted. So I poured the malted water onto the floor to give it a good clean. Then I opened my kiln. A kiln full of pale pink mugs was ready. This is a fruit of my labor from these past few weeks in the extreme cold. With the completion of these pink mugs, the coldest time of this year has also passed. As the weather slowly warms up, making pottery in the studio will become easier. But the experience I gained this year will leave me better prepared and more knowledgeable for facing the cold in the future. Finally, I will sand the bottom of the cups, clean them up, take photos, and gradually list them in my online shop. If you are interested, you can check them out. That's all for this video. I hope you find it helpful. If you have any question or thought, please let me know in the comments. See you in the next one.